The week before I had my second conversation with Mandell, he was in Senegal, and I saw a video clip during that week where he's walking right behind a pair of lions. And the video is just stunning and shocking and like, you know, heart palpitating. He's like, oh, how dare he do that? So we speak about that, and I promised I will put a link in the show notes to that. But I think the common thread to this conversation is ethical dilemmas and or being conscious of the choices you're making. Because we speak about wild animals that, are used for tourism and stuff, but also zoos and clothes. The clothes you buy, the shoes you buy, who's making them, and how are they making them? Is it sustainable or is it not sustainable? So we go into a long spiel about that. So dive deep into that particular rabbit hole with us, the rabbit hole of ethical dilemmas, which might have some people say, no, thank you, not today, which would be fine. But I do hope you stick around because there's some good stuff, as always, when you have these type of meandering conversations. So I hope you enjoy. Hi,
How are you?
I am a little bit kind of woozy. I had therapy session this morning and then we went to the sauna and went into the sea multiple times and then we had lunch and then I was so full and it was raining so I was wet and I came home and I was tired. So I plunked down on bed and kind of slept and then I've had reading retreat for an hour and a half and I kind of dozed partway or
Mm,
partly and didn't read so much. So I'm a little bit like, all mushy.
yeah. A lot
Um,
of a lot of what you was doing is like a recipe for a nap, like water and food
and sauna.
and sauna.
Yes,
I've
it
never
is
heard of a
definitely.
therapy session quite like that before. Sounds
No, we
kind of
do
amazing.
a special version, for sure. Um, this is this is a therapist who is absolutely fantastic and who just
Mm,
also happens to be one of my very, very closest friends.
mm,
So it's a special thing, and I can understand why some people might go, you know, is that such a good idea? But it is such a good idea. It works so well for us, for me, because he has a fuller picture of me than anybody really.
hmm
And I dare to be me with him in ways that I don't necessarily dare to. And it's always been like that, but we've done therapy for a year and a half, soon to be two, and that has just opened it up.
hmm
So it's a very it's a safe space, but it's also an edgy space because he knows so much of me. And I need, that combination for me is like tankespjärn. It's like that's tankespjärn, right?
hmm
So it works really, really well for me. But then the first Monday of every month, the sauna or the open air sauna and swimming place has what they call queer day, which
mm.
means everybody can go anywhere. So then I can join him in the men's side of the sauna. So then we can do that together as well. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Interesting. It reminds me of you have that unique situation where having one of your closest friends as your therapist works.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I've done that before. I was, my former husband and me, we worked together. We met up at work, and then he got into a, a leadership, a management position at work. So I wasn't his, subordinate, but he was the manager of the factory, of the processing, and I was supporting um, the processing side of stuff. So he
Mm,
was the one who
mm,
requested projects and stuff, and then I would be project leading the projects. But it worked really, really well for us.
mm,
So I think you're right in that there are people who do business with family, and it's absolutely awesome. Then
mhm.
there are people who do business with family, and it's anything but awesome. Um, so it's like it really is. There isn't one way, one
Mhm,
right way.
mhm,
It isn't one size fits all. It does vary, and this works now. I don't know if it would have worked earlier or if it will work. It's like, but
mhm,
right now it is really, really a good thing for me because
mm.
I'm getting a lot out of these therapy sessions. That's for sure. Um, yeah,
And they sound unique.
they are unique, and the therapy is called process oriented therapy, which is an Arnold Mindell is the mm, originator of this way of working
Mhm,
with therapy, which is very special. Mhm. So yeah, it really does work for me, really,
good.
really well, and I'm happy. And I did therapy all let's see, 15, 16 years ago,
Mhm,
uh, with the therapist that I didn't know at all. And she wasn't doing process oriented therapy. It was another type of therapy. And that
mm,
worked really, really well as well. Right. So
mm,
I think it is more, you have to find the person that it
mhm.
works with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from friends that finding a therapist is sometimes the hardest part.
yes.
Someone that really gets you and
Yeah.
doesn't have biases and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely. And who's kind of curious and open
Mhm.
to what is going on. And I'm really, yeah, I'm very helped. Uh, by Dominic knowing me in the way that he does as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and I've known him for 9 years by now, I think. So, yeah, special. But what
Yeah.
about you? You've been to
Senegal?
Senegal. Yeah, I was going to say Ghana, and I went, no, it wasn't Ghana.
No, not Ghana this time. This
It's
time
Ghana.
was Senegal. Absolutely a great time. It might have actually been I might have enjoyed it more the second time around than the first time, which is hard to believe because I enjoyed the first time so much that I wanted to go back a second time. But it was a great time, great experience. I went with a friend. He was celebrating his 34th birthday and wanted to go to Africa, didn't want to go alone. So I said, "Hey, I'm
I'm
always down.
game.
I am game. I'm always down for a vacation of any sort, but especially to Africa and Senegal." So we went out and we just had an absolute blast and good weather, good food, good people, culture, and it was amazing.
Do you have any connections to Senegal?
I did 23 as me, and there are some traces. I think it was 20 something percent a chance that my ancestors are from Senegal. So
Mhm.
I do have that. But other than that, just a coworker's family that I met when I went the first time, and we've just stayed in contact. And so that's kind of that is the contact person out there, and he takes care of us, and his family takes care of us, and connects us and bring us all around. So it's amazing.
Lovely. So what did you do?
Well, of course, there's the the lion experience.
The lion
That
experience. I will have to link to that. It's on that is on Instagram, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's on Instagram,
And it's
and
not just a story, you put it as a post.
yeah, I put it as a
Yeah.
post up. I
Yeah.
put it as a post, and that's been the thing. Everyone's. I mean, I'm surprised how many people have seen it because people were just coming up to me that I didn't even know were on social media, like, "Oh, I saw your video," and I had some friends reach out and say that they actually saw it on their Explore page and all kinds of things. So
Wow.
it's been interesting, but that was an amazing experience. And one of the reasons why is a few years back, I had learned that a lot of animals are often drugged and sedated and all kinds of things in order to for the human enjoyment, like circuses and things of that nature. I was going to Thailand, and
Yes.
I was saying, "Oh man, I saw all these pictures of people riding elephants in the water," and I said, "Oh man, I want to do that. That's amazing." And I don't know where I read it or how I learned about it, but somewhere I think it was an article, and they said, "Well, in order for you to ride an elephant, that elephant has to be abused and manipulated and everything like this." And they said, "Well, here's the alternative. The alternative is a elephant sanctuary, where they actually rescue those kind of elephants and treat them more like how they're supposed to be treated in their natural habitat." So I said, "Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that." So I end up going to an elephant sanctuary in Thailand. Had the most amazing time with elephants, learning and bathing them, and you don't get to ride them, but that's not what elephants are for anyway. So it was fine
No,
for me.
precisely.
And so ever since that experience, I've never wanted to be next to lions and tigers. I went to Dubai, and when you go to Dubai, everyone's like, "Oh, let's take pictures with tigers." And it's like, I think they're drugged up because I don't think I don't think that's something natural. So I've always stayed away from it. So when we went to Senegal, my friend out in Senegal, he says, "Oh, we can go to the safari and see lions." I'm like, I don't, I don't really
I
want
don't think
to.
so.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to go see lions, but it was my friend's birthday and he wanted to go, and so I said, "All right, I'll go. I just won't participate." But then when we got there, the trainer, the gentleman that was there, he started speaking about the lions, and someone in the group said, "And so tell us about these lions. Are they sedated or drugged or anything?" And he's like, "Oh no." He's like, "No, no, no, no. They're regular. It's natural." He said, "I had these lions since they was babies. I've held them in my arms, fed them with the bottle." And so he said, "So there's no drugs." And so when I heard that, I said, "Oh, okay.
Mm.
Maybe I can enjoy this experience." And so, I did. And, he brought the two, he had 5 lions, but he only brings 2 out at a time. So he brought the 2 out, and we got to take pictures with the lions, and we got to walk behind the lions as they walked, in front of us. And it was a great experience just seeing them, how big they are, and hearing their roar. And so he said that he never brings out 2 male lions at the same time because it's just too much testosterone and they start fighting
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So it was just fun to learn. And I think he says he feeds them every other day, 4 donkeys, or every 4 days or something like that. A massive diet. So when we saw them, he's like, the great news is they've just eaten, so they're not even that hungry. So he was like,
You
"Oh,
don't have
good,
to
good."
worry.
Yeah. So, "Oh, good. That's our advantage. They've already eaten." And but it was a great time, and I was happy that these animals weren't manipulated for our own enjoyment. So it was
Yeah.
definitely the highlight of the trip. My friend actually said when we came back, he was saying, "That was so much fun. I don't know. We should just go back home now because there's nothing we can do that's gonna." I was like, "Yeah, that was.
Totally.
I mean, we just had just such a blast. It was just
So what's
amazing."
the feeling when you're that close to like, because you were close to
Oh
those
yeah,
lions.
super close. Too close for comfort. There was, if you look in a video, there's one part when I'm walking behind them,
Hmm.
and the female lion stops, and so I stop because I'm like, I'm not running into a lion. And the trainer's like, "Keep walking." It's like, "Come on, stay close, keep walking." So I wasn't really scared, but I was very hesitant and very, like, constantly looking at the trainer like, make sure I'm doing,
checking.
yeah, like, am I
Mhm,
doing everything right? I don't want to offset. Like, there's certain rules he gives you, like, don't go wandering off on your own, and don't have certain jewelry and certain glasses and
mhm,
flashes and all kinds of things. And so I'm just making sure that I'm doing everything right. Because even though these lions know him and they're natural and everything, they're still an animal, a
they're
wild
still
animal, and
lions, yeah,
they still could at any moment decide, you know what, I'm gonna do this today. So
yeah.
I just wanted to be very cautious, but it was definitely like a feeling where you're on your toes at all times. You're just on edge and you're just looking, and like there was even times I was looking around for the other lions, like, so where are they exactly? Like, how far
They
away are
coming
they?
up on me,
Yeah,
sneaking up
exactly.
behind me. Yeah.
And he's like, no, no, don't worry, they're far away and they're with people and you're fine. So I was like, okay. So it's one of those experiences. But once you like, even once we got out of where the safari was, it was like, whew. It was like, yes, that was great, but we're out of that now.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience. One of those you'll never forget. And plenty have called me crazy. Like, oh, you are absolutely crazy for doing that.
Yeah, because I saw that video of you walking behind the lions, and I just go, "How? How is this possible?"
Exactly. That was my thinking. How is this possible?
Yeah.
And he has them trained so well. He calls them and they look at him, and it's
Mm.
just like, man, you
So
spent a
were
lot of time.
they lions that he rescued?
Yeah,
What?
he said, I believe he rescued the parents,
Mm,
and then the parents had babies, and then
mm,
he basically was there for the babies because he said he's held them since they were like in his arm. He's a really
babies.
big dude, and fed them bottles and everything. So he's had them forever. And so I believe the parents were the ones that were rescued. Yeah.
Because it is interesting, this thing. I um I have not wanted to go to the zoo for years, precisely because of this, the ethical, moral dilemma of what's being done to these animals. You know, ice. What are they called? Ice bears. Are they called polar bears? They're
Oh
called. They're
yeah.
called
Mhm.
isbjörn, ice bear in Swedish. Polar bears.
Mhm.
Um, who walk, kilometers, right, in a
Mhm.
natural day, and they're trapped in this, like, if they're lucky, 50-meter wide enclosement, right? So it's like I've had issues with that for a long time. All the while, I also know that some animals are alive today
Mhm.
because of what zoos do to
Mhm.
keep them alive, right? So it isn't 100% no,
Mhm.
but it's, yeah, I'm not sure I want to go.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. And he even told us that the lions that they have, it's been shown that they actually live longer
uh,
under their care
yeah,
than just out in the wild, which was also interesting.
yeah,
So yeah, I totally agree with you. And zoos and circuses and all types of things, because I love animals. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to go do that. But it's like, well,
yeah. But
under
do
what
you?
condition?
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was,
and it's like you say, it is this thing of who benefits, and is
hmm
it a mutually beneficial relationship, or is it I'm benefiting at the cost of?
hmm
Um, and it's like I I was this weekend. I was at a party, and I was talking to someone who's an avid fly fisher, who
mm,
loves to go fly fishing and is headed to Norway to fly fish and do that every year at least once or twice, and has spent many winters, which then would be summers, in New Zealand fly
mm,
fishing. Um, and I was asking about just this. It's like, well, what do you do? It's like, what do you do with all the fish? Well, toss them back in, but do they live? And how? And he voiced that he does consider this the
Mm.
ethical dilemma of fly fishing. It's like it's not lost on him. He's very
Mhm.
aware of it. Um, and up until now has decided that, yeah, I'm, you know, I continue doing it today,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was telling him that I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I really much prefer someone who does it with that awareness, the awareness that this isn't, "Ah," shrug your shoulders and just do it
Yeah.
type of thing. It's like, no, it actually, there's something in me that I have to kind of weigh, what's the pros and what's the cons, and how can I justify what it is that I do?
Mhm.
Um, and I much prefer that to someone who's just doesn't give it any thought.
Yeah.
People who go to the zoo and don't have any thought that we're actually trapping a wild animal,
Mhm.
or what is supposed to be a wild animal. It's like, so it's I like hearing that other people also have those types of like it's an internal struggle, really.
Yeah.
It's this tug of war. It's like,
Mhm.
what will I do, and for whom, and why, and what do I get out of it? What does the fish get out of it? Can one trump the other, and when can't it? Um,
Yeah, eternal struggle is the perfect word, because even though I've learned these things, I never try to thrust them on anyone else. It's like, everyone's own journey that they're gonna have. Because the same way I'm saying, oh, I would never hang out with lions or tigers that have been sedated or ride elephants. There could be a vegan that comes up to me and says, "Well, you eat animals all the time,"
yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
what's your point? You're not justifying anything. So everyone has their own journey in that. And it reminds me, I recently saw a video on Instagram. I believe his name is the Real Tarzan. He's known for being a huge animal lover. And he was recently in Vietnam, and they were selling like snakes. Some gentleman was selling snakes. And so he brought all the snakes, he brought them to the water and he released them. And he's like, he's like, that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna give some animals back their freedom. And so he made this guy's day because he brought all his snakes. And then, he made his own day and then the snakes. So it was amazing to see that. But it's definitely an internal struggle of, enjoyment at whose expense, as you said, which reminds me of this book that I read not too long ago called Consumed. And it's about,
Consume,
yeah, Consumed. And it's about
consumed.
um, fast fashion and our tendency to always buy, buy, buy without ever thinking about who's on the other end of that. Who are the factory workers that are working in sweatshops and getting paid barely
Pittance.
nothing exactly. And we're wearing nice clothes, but at whose expense? And so that book really did a number on me, and so I could see the connection there.
So what has that book, or what are the insights from that book? Has that had any lasting effect in your actions or inactions? Is there anything that you now do or that you now don't do?
Yeah, so now I'm always looking where something is made. Like, where was that where was that made at? Oh, China? Now I'm gonna pass on that. I'm always, curious where something's made at. One thing that book taught me a great deal is there was a brand or some brands that I really loved, and they had like a sustainable line, and then they had like their regular lines. And so the author brings up a point. She says, "Well, are they sustainable or aren't they? Or are they just doing it for money? If you're really sustainable, why do you have a sustainable line? Shouldn't everything you do?"
Everything.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So
Mm.
I kind of ended my relationship with that brand. So there's a lot of brands that I supported heavily, a lot of clothes and shoes and sneakers that I just decided, listen, I have enough. One of the things the book really helped me with is really understanding that I have enough anyway. Because the author even says in the book, she's like, I'm not telling you to go out and throw out everything in your closet you have, because that's not sustainable either. What I'm telling you is to be conscious about your next purchases. And so when I made this decision that I wasn't going to buy certain things anymore, I was more at peace knowing that I have a ton already. So if I never brought any more sneakers, I'm fine
You
because
still have
I still
enough.
have a ton. I don't need to throw any of them away. But new purchases, all my new purchase decisions have been much more thought out. Like, who's this company? What are they doing? Are they serious about this and all of that? So I probably have purchased 3 pair of sneakers since the year started, and I've had weeks where I've purchased 10 pairs of sneakers. So it's like a
Are you
total.
kidding me? How many sneakers do you have? You're like Imelda Marcos. How many sneakers do you have,
Oh
Mandell?
yeah, I have hundreds. The one thing that
Really?
yeah,
Oh, shit.
the one thing is that I've wore the same shoe size since I was in 8th grade. So I literally have shoes in my house right now from junior high school because it's been the same size, and so it's just accumulating, adding. But um,
You
my
never wear any out?
oh, there are some that the sole has broken. I I went out and I came home and the sole was gone. So there's definitely those for sure. And but yeah, kind of incredible to see that I'm I just don't purchase sneakers like that anymore. It's just like, I'm not interested.
Good. Hmm.
Yeah. I always see a face on the other side now after reading that book. It's one of those books like, once you read a book like that, you can't act like you didn't. It's like,
Nope. Nope.
dag,
Precisely.
I read that book,
Precisely.
or I know
Yeah.
that thing. It's like, shucks.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't pretend ignorance anymore.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because and it's funny, my
Yeah.
grandma used to always say that. She would say you're going to be held accountable for the things that you know, and
Yes.
other people might get away with it because they don't know it, but you
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, why did I pick up this book?
Yeah. That could be a curse. Um, but I mean, it's so I'll say this, and again, this is an example of my internal dilemma, right? So I I don't want to fly. I don't want to go on a plane. And last time, and then in 2019, I went to Kenya. It's like,
Mm,
well, you fly to Kenya. You don't do anything other than fly to Kenya.
mhm,
So I flew to Kenya, and then a couple of weeks later, my niece graduated from medical school in the UK.
mhm,
And I looked up trains and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, we couldn't really make it going there by train because of times and when I got home and when this was and stuff. So we flew there, me and my son, and then we went by train through Europe and some bus back home. And then occasionally I've flown since for work down to Germany and stuff, but it's like I really don't want to.
mhm,
And now I have and I don't want to because of climate crisis, carbon dioxide,
mhm,
pollution, all of those things, right? So I have a friend who's in Scotland for a couple of more months, and she sends pictures, and it's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And it's like, oh, I want to go visit, right? And I don't want to go by plane.
mhm.
And I can go by train. It will cost at least, it'll probably cost 10 times as much
Wow.
and take, instead of it taking half a day, going to the airport and stuff like that, or of course, maybe a day, 8 hours or something in total. The plane ride is less than 2 hours. It would take probably at least a day and a half, maybe upwards to 2 days to go from where I am up to where she is. And it's just this. So I'm doing this internal struggle,
Mhm.
right? The plane ticket still, even though plane tickets are now rising, they're getting pricier again, which
Mm.
is a good thing because they've been so ridiculously cheap that you don't give any consideration at all. You could go to the UK from where I am for, you know, less than $100,
Mm.
less than 100 US dollars.
Mhm.
And sometimes a lot less than $100.
Wow.
It's
Mhm.
like it's been so ridiculously cheap for the past 10 years. And it's going up, but it's still a lot cheaper than the trains. So, and this is the thing, precisely what you say. It's like, I can't pretend I don't know. So it's like, it is this inner, and then I go, why do I have to make life so goddamn hard on myself? Right? Um, and it's made easier by the fact that I actually don't have any longing to go anywhere.
Mm.
I don't have the travel bug, and I haven't had it for at least 5 years, if not
Mm.
longer. It's like, can I stay here? Please. I don't want to go anywhere else. I just love being here in my own home, in my own garden. It's
Mhm.
like, that's sufficient for me. I don't have this, oh, I want to see this. I want to do that. It's like, no, can I stay here? So I've really rooted down in a sense here.
Mhm.
Um, but it is this internal tug of war. Like, because I'd love to see her. I haven't seen her in person, but she's a dear, dear friend. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I've never really considered like flying as a contribution to climate change. Of course it is, but it's just something that hasn't passed my mind. And it's probably
Sorry
because
for ruining that for you.
but it's funny because when you said that, you reminded me of in the book, she talks about yachts, like big yachts that billionaires have and all the contributions that they play. And I remember reading that and going, "Oh man, I can't even get a yacht one day," because that's like something I enjoy as well. Like, even when we were in Senegal, we were on like boats and just being with
Yeah.
the water. It's just so amazing, and I really enjoy it. But again, back to this internal struggle, it's something that you have to consider and think about. And so it made me wonder when you said that, man, I wonder the people that are like really huge on climate change, do they ever get on a plane? Is it a thing of like, some battles you fight and some you leave alone? Like, well, if we get on a plane, or planes are something that that we could do, but it's all the other stuff that is not, less of importance that we shouldn't do.
Mhm.
And so I never really thought about it till you said that, and so now I'm interested. Um,
There's a climate scientist who's on Twitter. I think his name is Peter Kalmus. I might have that a little bit wrong, but I can link to him in the show notes.
mhm,
I think that he lives in California, and I know that he has not been on a plane for 10 years.
mm,
And I'm a little bit loath to bring it up because I think that she's not necessarily all that she's portrayed to be. But Greta Thunberg is
mhm,
the Swedish girl who's the climate change activist of
mhm,
Fridays for Future and everything. When she went to the US, they sailed across
mm,
the Atlantic and sailed back somehow.
yeah,
And it's like, the thing is, yes, air traffic contributes hugely
mhm,
to this, not just because of like actual chemicals, but particles.
Mm.
They release particles in layers of the stratosphere where the particles will then, you know, greater impact on solar radiation, this, that, and the other thing, right? So they
Mhm.
have like both a chemical aspect, but also a physical aspect to it. But trains, not necessarily the best. There's a
Mhm.
lot of diesel trains in Europe, for instance.
Mm.
So once you sort of start to dig into it, it's like
Mhm.
there's not a good option really
Yeah.
yet,
Mhm.
right? Like that's kind of my hope that there
Mhm.
will be. Same with ferries. They are huge contributors.
Mm.
A lot of them are not good, from an environmental standpoint.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't do good. But it feels good because it's not planes, right? And compared to planes, maybe it is good, but it's not good,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, so if it's like with anything, if you just start down the rabbit hole, it just
Mhm.
keeps on going. There's no end, there's no bottom. You don't get to
Mhm.
the bottom of it. And there's a lot of things that I've done in my life that I have done partly with this in mind, with a
Mhm.
climate conscious or an environmental conscious
Mhm.
aspect to it. It's like I don't have a car anymore. I
Mm.
haven't had a car for 7 years.
Wow.
And I live in a place where it's small enough. There's public transport. I can bike. I can walk. It's no
Mhm.
problem. I can borrow the neighbor's car or my friend's cars if and
Mhm.
when I need it.
Mhm.
Um, And I work in such a way that I don't need the car to get to work.
Mm.
It's like,
Mhm.
because there are plenty of people who needs a car to be able to do their lives, right? I'm
Mhm.
not one of them, and I don't have a car, and it's one
Mhm.
of the best things I've ever done.
Mm.
Um, and I don't buy stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
ugh, it's just buying clothes is like, is there anything more boring than buying clothes or shoes? It's like, oh no, please, can I not? Uh, it's like I really don't like it, which is
Mhm.
great because then
Mhm.
I don't.
Yeah.
And if and when I do, I bought 2 pairs of shoes last year, handmade by I think Czech company that's called Look Shoes, which is barefoot shoes because I only wear barefoot shoes anymore. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, this is skilled labor. This is somebody really doing. Uh, and they're unique shoes. They're not that many, and they are handmade. It's like
Mhm.
that feels. That's something. Yes, I do want to support those. And I needed. Well, I wanted. Because I don't have a lot of shoes.
Mhm.
I have less than 10 pairs of shoes. Um, because once I swap to barefoot shoes, my feet then also start to change.
Mm.
So I can't wear my old shoes.
Mhm.
They're gone. I don't want to wear them because they're hurting my feet, but I can't wear them anymore because my feet have outgrown them.
Yeah.
Um,
This conversation reminded me of an exercise that we did in the copy workshop, which is you have to really get to know the idea is to really get to know your customer
mm,
and to like interview them and really dig into why they do certain things. And there's one exercise that's about shoes.
mm,
And so you interview the other person about, how many shoes do you have and why? And you get into emotions and thoughts and all those kinds of things. And so I don't know. Are you familiar with Scott Perry?
yeah,
Okay. Oh yeah, you did
yeah,
the
yeah.
creatives. Of course you know
I
Scott
did the
Perry.
creators workshop.
So
Yeah.
me and Scott were teamed up. And it was the most amazing thing because we're total opposites.
Mm,
Scott has 3 pairs of shoes in his entire closet. He has his running sneakers, his dress shoes, and then he has a pair of boots.
Yeah.
And I, on the other hand, have 300 and something pairs of sneakers. And so when we're talking, when you just said just now, I brought 2 pairs of shoes last year, it's like, that's it. It's like, that's it. And so you just reminded me of that. But it was an amazing experience. And it's so fun to hear, why we buy things. What do they mean? What do they say? Even when you
Yeah.
said like, oh man, is there anything more boring than buying clothes? And for another person, it's like, that's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
That's therapy. That's this, that's
Yeah.
this. And so I love that exercise, and I love having those conversations just about, why did you really buy that shoe? And now I'm at a place, more like how you said the 2 pair of shoes you brought is something that you can support. They were handmade. I'm more interested in buying things that have an amazing story behind it,
Yeah.
and where I can contribute. You know, as much as I love Kanye West, buying a Kanye West sneaker at this point doesn't have the same story. He's a billionaire now. The story is kind of different. You're not really supporting Kanye West
No.
versus if I go to a tailor in Senegal, the gentleman, the friend that I know in Senegal, he knows someone that makes shoes as well. But it's in
Oh,
his
cool.
shop, it's his hands. That story is way different.
Yeah.
And if you're the type of person that doesn't want everyone wearing what you have on your feet, well, here's a better chance that you're going to have that
Yeah.
opportunity. So, all these conversations are so interesting to me, and stories and, handmade versus factory made, 1 million pairs. And it's just an amazing topic that we've landed on here.
Yeah, and it is um it is interesting this. I'm wearing my red poncho that I knitted 2 years ago and the wrist warmers that goes with it, and I've been wearing this, basically daily for 2
Hmm.
years. And I've been mending them ever so often because they tear, they snag and tear, and I have to mend them so they won't unravel. Um, and I've started to do that, and I've started to mend my jeans, etc. And I got my mom's worn out pair of jeans a couple of months ago with artistic freedom to let me fix them with visible mending, and I've been meticulously mending them, really pouring my heart and soul into these jeans. And I gave them back to her on Friday as a birthday gift. It was a birthday a couple of weeks ago. And I then made her wear them. So I had a birthday party here yesterday. It's my birthday in a couple of weeks. So I had a birthday
Hmm.
party yesterday for family, and I made her wear them so that I could get pictures of her in them. And there's something so rewarding to this,
Mm.
to seeing her in a pair of jeans that, they had started to tear on both knees. She might have continued to wear them in the garden or, but not anywhere else. And they're perfectly good. It's just they had started to tear, so they needed to be mended. So I mended like the front and a little bit in the crotch because that's where it also gets, quite worn. They will keep for years.
Hmm.
And I told her, and then there's like a little less worn places that will get worn and will tear, and then you just give them back to me and I will mend them again. And it is this ongoing process. And the jeans, I have 3 pairs of jeans now that I wear, and all of them I've mended more than once. And
Hmm.
and I just keep on. So I wear them and then they break somewhere else and then I mend that, and it's like, and there's something so rewarding to this, to the there's something to the arc of time that stretches when I do this, when I use something and then fix it so that it can be continue to be used.
Hmm.
Um, that is really it's a powerful sensation. It's really rewarding. Um, And the green shawl that I'm also wearing is a woolen shawl that I bought in Florence, Italy in 2006. I
Mm,
think we were there, 6 or 7. And it's starting to tear. I haven't started to mend this one yet, but I will. Um, but it is the best. I, you know, and so yeah, there's something there's a great amount of satisfaction in this for me.
mhm.
And then in making choices, if I buy anything new, making choices to make sure this is something that lasts. And
Yeah.
then when I'm worn it out, either I go to the is it called a cobbler with shoes if they need uh, a new sole or they torn or something. I can get my shoes mended or to the tailor or fix it myself.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, it's like that's that's how it's supposed to be, right? It's not toss it in because it's like I think in Sweden, the average Swede tosses out if it's 8 or 12 kilos of garments every year.
Mm,
What? I don't buy 8 kilos of garments every year. And that's
mhm.
the norm of what people throw away because you buy this, a t-shirt made in a he's like in a sweatshop somewhere in Bangladesh and it lasts 3 rounds in the laundry. And then it's like misshapen and it's like you can't wear it anymore because it's just crap,
Yeah,
right? It's like, okay, let's toss it. It's so cheap. No, it really isn't.
yeah.
There's a lot of cost involved in that.
Mhm. Yeah, it reminds me of Patagonia. They have, I saw a video once, this guy, he brought some Patagonia swim trunks, and I think he said he had it for 20 something years, and every time a part of it messed up, he brought it back to Patagonia and they patched up for him. And one of the cool things was the amount of stories that he had with those shorts, you know, that he could just look at and remember, trips that he took or excursions that he went on or whatever the case may be versus just, oh, throw those away, get some new trunks. And so Patagonia, I remember years ago they actually ran a campaign like don't buy any more jeans, something of that nature.
Yeah.
And it was so counterintuitive. Like, wait,
Yeah.
isn't your
I
job to
think they
sell
have,
jeans?
don't buy a new jacket, bring your old one in, we'll mend it for you.
Yeah,
It's like, we
exactly.
will do that. And if you necessarily need to, bring your old one in, we'll mend it and then donate it to somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Um,
it's amazing to see stuff like that because it's true. If
yeah,
you buy something with quality, it should be able to last. And one of the benefits is you have those stories like your
yeah,
mom and the jeans and memories, where you were when you wore that and
yeah,
when you fell down or when you scraped your leg, whatever it is, it,
yeah,
it all comes with a story.
yeah, yeah. So, will the sneakers that you have bought this year have different meaning to you? Is there already a different story attached to them?
Um, with those, I probably just can mark where my consumption rate or the way I purchase things change. Like, oh yeah, this is when I stopped buying sneakers from China and
Mm,
wherever else in the world, and where I just began like, American made or, Italy or handmade or whatever the nature is like that. That will probably just be the only thing, at least that I could see right now, is just like a mark in the sand of, where I made that change and where the consumption went all the way down. And I'm not as interested in the latest and the greatest and, oh, what's coming out next week and trying to keep up with all that stuff anymore.
So has that left a hole
It's definitely taken out some fun for me, like fun that I used to have or conversations with people that I used to have. It's funny because a lot of people, after a while of buying sneakers and having sneakers and shoes and all, people start to associate you heavy with that. And so there's a lot of times people will come up to me because I didn't necessarily, you know, come out the next day and say, "Oh, I read this book. I'm a changed man." So no one really knows the experience. So when they come up to you and go, "Hey, Mandel, have you seen this sneaker?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't seen it." And they're like, "I'm surprised you
What?
didn't." Yeah, it's like you haven't seen it. I'm like, no, I haven't seen it. Or sometimes they'll say, "Did you get the sneakers that came out today?" Because usually I would get them, and I was like, "No, I didn't get them." Hey, you haven't been buying sneakers lately, and it's like, yeah, I passed on those. I didn't want them, And to make it short, instead of saying, "Yeah, I read this book," and on and on and on. So the conversations are definitely different, because I really have gotten to the point where I've made myself not have interest in them because I know I don't want to purchase them. I'm not keeping up, all the things that are coming out. If I see something I like, the first thing I'm doing is saying, "Where was it made?" And that's like the first the first conversation I'm having with myself. And so yeah, definitely conversation with people is totally different in terms of when they approach me with those kind of conversations about sneakers and clothes and, "Oh, did you see this? You should buy this," or "Let's go here and buy this." And it's just like, "Oh, I'm not really interested."
Because I think that's like making it's like, again, a part of the ethical dilemma is like when you do come up to one of those pivot points, what you've spent time on or energy on or, reading up on or talking about, all of a sudden there's that time, there's this void. What do you fill it with? Now, what's the replacement? And not to kind of be like an addict that just kind of swaps out the object of the
Mhm.
addiction. Uh, but to consciously, like, okay, this is open up this time. It's open up money.
Mhm.
I'm guessing it's like, what do I do with this? What is
Yeah.
then my choice? What will I spend my money on? Okay, maybe I won't buy 30 pairs of sneakers. I can get 3 pairs of handmade leather shoes for the same
Mhm.
amount of money. Okay. Same kind
Yeah.
of, I just get a different amount back,
Mhm.
but there's something else. Or there's no way I can spend that much on handmade shoes because I don't need that many anymore because, it's like so
Mhm.
it's interesting what you kind of do with the energy that's been uprooted, because it is energy that's been uprooted in a sense.
Mhm.
Your sneaker interest up in the air. What will it fall back down into?
Mhm.
Um, will you start to buy books instead? It's like, who knows?
No, definitely true. I can say for sure the things that I have wanted are more expensive. And so it's like, well, if I am going to buy this one thing, it's almost like buying 10 of the other things anyway.
Mm.
So your money kind of goes there or just saving or investing or using it to travel and stuff like that. Um but yeah, there's definitely more time, like you said, time and money where you're just not invested in going to websites and browsing or like since I read that book, I can't tell you how many emails I've unsubscribed to from companies that I purchased in the past. And it's like, well, this is pointless now because I'm never going to be buying this stuff. So all those things kind of shift when, and you bring your energy to somewhere else that you're more interested in, like people that are making things by hand and things that have these amazing stories. And you're like, oh, wow, this is interesting.
Mm. Speaking of, I have borrowed the gift from the library and I've started to read it, but
Hmm.
I'm just, I'm probably not even a tenth of the way in that book. Um, but it is kind of related to what we're speaking about
Mhm.
as well. This aspect of it's kind of like we can buy things or do things, take part in things kind of at face value, but there is always consequence. It comes from somewhere and it will lead to something. There is you buy a cup of coffee in a plastic cup. Yeah, you throw the cup away. It's like, yeah, I had a great time speaking with you at the cafe or whatever. Yeah, but that plastic cup came from somewhere. It was made, it's been transported, it was brought there, and then you toss it. It's like everything, everything is related, really. And I think that's what the gift or the gift culture really points to in a much broader sense than what the market economy kind of presents as. It's like, get this new shiny thing, right? It's like we polish up the face of it,
Mhm.
so that you don't really consider where does it come from and what of it? What's the impact if I get this new shiny thing? What's the impact?
Mhm.
Both on the people who can keep on working in sweatshops and landfills or whatever it is. Um, and I mean, it's not. There's a Swedish author. I think her name is Helena Thorfinn. She's a diplomat,
Mhm.
but also a novelist. She's written a couple of books that in Swedish. I don't know if they're translated. And she was working as a diplomat in Bangladesh and maybe India and stuff. And so she's written a couple of books, fictional books about Bangladesh, about one of these sweatshops, a t-shirt factory or something or other where in the story there's a fire and the doors are locked because they don't want the workers to leave and stuff, and so x amount of people died. And I mean, it's based on true stories. We hear of those incidents. um and it's kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, maybe it's really bad to buy things from Bangladesh if it says made in Bangladesh or something. And at the same time, where will the Bangladeshians get their money?
Mhm.
It's like, so there's a shift that's needed somehow to make the contribution of people everywhere, I don't know, more valuable, more along a longer line of art.
Mhm.
Uh, So that it isn't this flash in the pan. Here's a t-shirt that you wear 3 times and then you have to toss it because it's just not usable anymore. How do we make this transition? And who will get hurt during that transition? Who will not be able to feed their kids?
Mhm.
Um who will suffer from the awareness of a richer middle classer um scope of people who all of a sudden say, no, I don't want to buy sneakers made in China. Okay, what will happen in China? What will happen to the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people working those sneaker factories? What will they do?
Yeah. So funny you say that because that was one thing I was thinking about constantly as I was reading the book. It was like, well, aren't we helping them? you know, uh, and one point the author made was that by doing this, there's a chance that we put pressure on, let's just say, if everyone took on this idea. You put pressure on, these mega companies, Nike or Adidas or whoever it is, to say, well, people care where their products are being made at. Maybe we should not necessarily stop making them in China, but maybe we should treat the people that are making them in China better. Maybe we should have better factories. Maybe we should pay them more. So it's kind of that thing. And at the same time, I was saying, well, I can understand that. There's been, again, that internal fight where there's been times since I've read the book where it was like, you know what? Me changing is not enough. It's kind of like the voting thing. People say, well, why vote? One vote doesn't matter. It's like, okay, if I commit to this and stop, it's not going to change the entire game. It's not going to change the entire industry. Why should I change? And I've thought about just saying, forget the whole thing. And then it's like, no, like I said, you just can't. You can't. Even if I don't think it's making a big enough difference, I know that I'm different from it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's enough. And so I'm on my own journey with it. Just like when you mentioned planes, I'm not at that point yet. But when you mentioned that, I did think about Seth Godin, because I don't know if this is the reason why, but he often says now, like in our meetings, that he doesn't fly places, like he doesn't go places anymore. I don't know if it's just because, hey, I've seen it all. I don't, like you said, I'm not
Yeah.
interested in anything, or if it has something to do with the environment and climate change, which is the area that he's obviously heavily focused on right now.
Yeah, well, with the carbon almanac, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe next time I get a chance to ask him a question, I'll ask, hey, are those
Yeah,
connected in any way?
yeah.
But yeah, it's really a personal journey, and everyone's not going to be ready for it in different places. Just like if you were saying, "Oh, I want to go vegan," or as you brilliantly pointed out, trains and ferries aren't the greatest thing either,
No.
or I could ask, Elon Musk, who makes Tesla, the electric cars, but he also flies a private jet 5 times a week to see his children. So it's like, well, he's going to see his children, but he's flying a jet, polluting the air, but he makes Tesla. So it's just like, it's almost like we're
Yeah.
all hypocrites on some level at some point, if we're not mindful and careful. So it's another reason why not to judge anybody, anything like that, because, none of us are perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's and I think that's kind of a little bit where I struggle. It's like it is easier for me to judge myself
Hmm.
there, which might be one reason why I say, sorry, I won't go to Scotland, right? Even though it's like there is the tug of war inside of me. I really want to,
Hmm.
and I really don't want to be that hypocrite.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, and again, I think that there's a there's a lot of things we can shift and change, and I think the COVID pandemic showed us that.
Hmm.
And I hope that there are people who have taken that opportunity to kind of reassess, re-baseline. It's like what's important in life. I think COVID has played an impact on Seth, for instance. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I don't have to. And I know other speakers who have done, who are speakers who have come to the same conclusion. It's like, I actually don't want to go back to that, living my life on the road,
Yeah.
sleeping in hotels, every week throughout the
Hmm.
year. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. So I think that there has been those types of shifts.
Hmm.
Um, but to again, it's like you're not buying shoes anymore.
Hmm.
But when you buy shoes, you're buying shoes with awareness, a conscious choice
Hmm.
that you're making, right? So I'm hoping that that is what more people will do. It's like, okay, yes, I have a car, but it's a conscious decision because this, that, and the other thing. So that again, that you're applying your knowledge, your insights uh, on your choices and making them more consciously. Um, so that maybe I won't, maybe I won't take a weekend trip if I go, maybe it's a longer time, and maybe
Mhm.
if and when I go somewhere, I will make deep connections. I will form relationships. I will be changed, and I will change somebody else so that there's
Mhm.
really a lasting bond of some sort being brought, so that maybe, it's less charter trip to the sun, where you're just staying by the pool. You're not even going outside of the compound.
Mhm.
Well, you could do that anywhere. Do you need to hop on a plane? It's like, again, if it's just to get away that I need, can you find somewhere closer to get away to? Well, I
Mhm.
want the warmth. Well, there's this place in Germany that has like an indoor beaches, right? Could you go there instead? You could drive there, you can take the train there. So that you kind of, or I really want to go to Scotland because I want to immerse myself in Scottish culture. Okay. Then, an indoor beach in Germany isn't going to do the trick.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, it is a lot about what it is that we do and how we do it. What's the roots?
Mhm.
What's the roots of my decisions? What are they rooted in? Where do they come from? What am I allowed to sprout and become something, right?
Yeah. I have to ask you about your car. How do you go grocery shopping?
I have a bike.
Oh, you just throw it all on the bike?
Yeah. And I have one grocery shop less than a kilometer that way. I have another grocery shop 2.5 kilometers that way. It's not an issue.
Okay. And do you
Yeah.
ride at night or only during the day?
Oh, always.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, all these it's always interesting hearing how different people, in New York, having a car, there's just cars everywhere. So when you say, "Oh yeah, I don't have a car." It's like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. You don't maybe none of us need cars."
Yeah. And I mean, the US is an country really, really built to promote car ownership, car driving.
Mhm.
A lot of the cities in the US would be just such a hassle to live in without a car, which
Mhm.
is done by the poorest people,
Mhm.
right? And then they have to struggle for hours on public transportation. That sucks.
Yeah.
But they don't have a choice.
Mhm.
Um, but Sweden is older that way. So there's, in Malmö and in Lund, the small town, the academic town, fairly close to here as well. It's like it's a hassle to drive a car into town
Mhm.
because it's one ways and this that, and they've tried to get rid of cars. So it's like, if you are here and you want to go, just across town, yeah, you have to do the biggest detour to get there. So I basically bike into town faster than drive and try to find a parking spot.
Yeah. It's like the Netherlands, more bikes than people.
Yeah, yeah. And Copenhagen is the same. Denmark is the same. There's a
Mm,
lot of bikes.
yeah.
Um,
Definitely a healthier lifestyle, get your exercise in while you're
yeah.
commuting versus just hopping in a
Yeah.
car.
And the trick is, when there's a car in my driveway, my daughter has a car that she doesn't need sometimes, and then she parks it here. Or if my mom, before COVID, when she went traveling, she would drive here. I would drive her to Copenhagen to the airport, and then I'd
Mhm.
have the car, and then I'd
Mhm.
pick her up when she came home. Now, if there's a car in my driveway, I use the car to go grocery shopping, right? Even though I don't need it
Yeah.
because I don't need it. I don't use it normally because I don't have a car. So
Yeah.
if it's there, it is so the threshold to take the car instead because it's just easier is so low. And that can bug me. So I'm like, I shouldn't I shouldn't ask to borrow cars. Like, no, because then I get lazy.
Yeah.
So it's really been, that pattern. If there's a car there, I would take the car instead, even
Mm.
though
You don't
I
need it.
really don't need it. Yeah. So yeah, humans are lazy and cars kind of work on that.
Yeah.
That's
Like
the
some of
tug.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
the convenience. Yeah.
The convenience of
we
it.
fall
Yeah.
into convenience often. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I'll be having I'm fetching my daughter after this, and I will be having her car for a couple of days.
Mhm.
Um and I'm going to my customer tomorrow and Wednesday. That I ride my bike 12 minutes up to the bus station. I get on the bus. The bus is 50 minutes, and then I walk. In Sjöbo, I walk 5 minutes max
Mhm.
to the place. If I drive, it's 35 minutes,
Mm.
right?
Like
So
half the
yeah, I
trip.
save a little bit. I save half an hour,
Yeah.
right? Which when it's a full day, it doesn't really matter. Tomorrow, no, Wednesday, I'm recording a pod in the morning.
Mhm.
So we'll be finished by 11. That half hour that I save makes quite a big difference then.
Mhm.
Because then I can get there before lunch and have the rest of the day at my clients.
Mhm.
So absolutely, there are times when it's really convenient. Um, but I'm so happy I don't have a car anymore.
And
Uh,
when you ride to the bus station, do you park your car or your bike there and
yeah,
get on the bus? Okay.
yeah.
Are you allowed to take bikes on buses there?
On some buses, yes.
Okay.
On some
Okay.
buses, on some trains. Not necessarily always, and maybe the bus drivers aren't so happy
Yeah.
if you do. I've done that a couple of times, but
Mhm.
very seldom.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, so you just park your bike up all day. No one bothers it. Just
well, I also live in Malmö, which has a reputation for being one of the sort of bike theft capitals.
oh man.
Um, so bikes get stolen for sure.
Mhm. Mm.
But I have a used women's bike,
Oh, okay.
nothing fancy, so it's like chances are they'll steal something else.
yeah, exactly. More
Uh,
enticing.
yeah, something more enticing, precisely. But I mean, you know, shit happens,
Yeah.
sure. Um, but there's a lot of bikes in this town. It's a bike friendly town. Uh, from one end to my chiropractor is on the other end of town, and it's 13 kilometers by bike, which takes me anything from 35 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the wind, because it's close to the ocean. So
Mhm.
if you have the headwind, you can really be struggling. Um, but it's not an issue. And like you say, then I get my movement. Then I get my exercise down, and I don't do any other type of exercise. So really, biking is a very good one for me.
That's good. Biking and the few times you go, do you go full out swimming or is just a relaxing thing?
Mostly, it's relaxing thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I can now and again I go swimming as well,
Mhm.
but usually it's just for the pleasure of it.
Relaxation.
Yeah, yeah. Today it was 14 degrees in the water, which means 28, 30, 40, 58 degrees in the water.
mm. Kind of chilly.
Yeah, so it's getting warm, 'cause I go all year round. But yeah, it's warming up. But it was lovely, and was raining a little bit and calm, but raining.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Really lovely. Yeah. Maybe that's a soft, mellow place to end this conversation in.
With the rain.
With the rain and the it was interesting. We were there last weekend as well, and the colors of the sea last weekend was turquoise, vibrant colors. And when you sit in the sauna, there's these big windows, and they have these big, huge boulders, rocks outside, and then there's the ocean, and then there's the sky. So it's like a painting, really. And today it was all gray. There was not a smidgen of blue in the water. It was all gray. The rocks were gray. The water was gray. The sky was gray. So it's fascinating different the different scenes in that painting that is the window out into the ocean. So it's quite lovely to go there this regularly and kind of notice how varied, how varied the same thing can be.
Mhm.
Because it's the same sea, it's the same sky, it's the same rocks, but totally shifts,
Mm.
totally shifts. Just lovely to be aware of that, to appreciate that.
Looks totally like something else.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. It totally shifts.
Mm.
It's gorgeous. Well, I will be linking to your lion story
Oh, yeah, definitely.
so that people can check that out and see
Mhm.
what it is that we started talking about.
An experience indeed.
Yeah. Thanks for today, Mandel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you wanna see if we can catch a picture? I know we didn't catch one last time, and
Catch a picture.
I'm never good at I don't even know, is it okay. Command Shift 3. Alright.
You got it?
Yep, I got it. Hopefully they came out good.
Good. Good. Good. Well, see you around.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be looking forward to, the show notes, see what else I can learn from the convo, and obviously, I'll be thinking about being conscious and aware. That's really what I got from this convo, being conscious and aware of all things,
Yeah.
shopping and traveling, jeans, and so much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
great convo.
Thank you.
Thank you.